Hello, gamers. What is up? Welcome to another Monday where it is definitely not a podcast. It is good to see you all. Imagine not wanting to be weird. I know, right? It's not, and it is not. Stop it, Joss. No, Kino, you're both banned. It is not a podcast. This is. It says it in the title. Can you not even? Can you not even get with it? That sucks. I hate that.
This is what, definitely not a podcast, episode 4?
Yeah, definitely not a podcast, episode 4.
Still nodding.
Still not a podcast.
I mean, is this episode 4 of Definitely Not a Podcast, or is this definitely not the 4th episode of a podcast?
This is definitely not the 4th episode of a podcast, correct.
All right, good.
WoW has whittled down a lot of what was annoying about an MMO experience for the better. I think that's a subjective thing, because what I find annoying in an MMO, other people find entertaining. So I don't think I would agree with that. I will agree that there have been a lot of quality of life changes that WoW did that were good. I also think they've removed any sense of like I talked about this about Final Fantasy. You know, one of my issues with Final Fantasy is because teleportation is so readily available, because anyone can just teleport anywhere they've already been before because of the, you know, crystals and what blah 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 blah. I literally am not like entertained by the size of the world. I feel no sense of discovery because the world just feels tiny and the enemies in it arbitrary. Also, it just doesn't have very sprawling maps, right? So they're not wide, they're usually like narrow, and I don't like that either. But like,
yeah, which I think was interesting when we talked about this last time, because I found the sprawling maps of WoW annoying, because I just wanted to get to the next place and I was stuck traveling for however long it took for me to get to the next place.
My thing is that I want to play in a world. That's why I play an MMO. If I want to just do some quests to get to the next place, I'm gonna play like, you know, I'm gonna play like some sort of like single player game. That
yeah, and I mean, I just think I think it's interesting that we find different things about the same game appealing versus unappealing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I do. I find it very, very unappealing. Like it feels it feels like the world is non-existent. And I got what got me into MMOs. So my first MMO was actually Final Fantasy XI, and the thing about it is I can look back on that game and tell you that it's just not really a great game. There's a lot wrong with it. I would still love to play it. You know, I'd love to play like the story mode again if I could do so without it taking my entire lifetime. But I also recognize that that's unlikely. But that said, there felt like there was a mystery. I really felt like when I was going places, like that place I was going to was significant, right? Like I felt like when I made my first journey to Hueno or Juno or however you want to pronounce it, it was really, really cool to me because it was a dangerous journey, because it's a part of the story where low-level players have to go through high-level zones to get to this city to continue their leveling and story experience. And it really felt like an adventure, right? You had to plan for it. You kind of had to dodge monsters and, you know, use scrolls or get help from higher level players. And the world felt big. And then to get back to the other cities was an effort until you unlocked chocobos. And even then, riding the chocobo, I mean, it was a good ride. You couldn't get attacked by monsters anymore, but it was a pretty long ride before you reached back to those other zones again. And I really, really liked that. By the time you get an airship license and you're high enough level that, you know, every white mage you know has all the teleports, you know, and you have enough money to like buy teleports, transportation becomes easier, but that sense of size and of adventure, you already established that. And I don't feel that in a lot of games anymore, right? That's what captivated me, because it wasn't the grinding that captivated me. Right? It wasn't saying now I'm level 5 that captivated me. It was that sense of a world and adventure and discovery, which I don't feel like I experience in MMOs anymore. And they've really whittled that away down to just this, you know, I hate to use the term because it's used so like pathetically most of the time, but very much a casualized experience.
Yeah. I think when I talk about the impatience of getting from point A to point B, an example that I'll use from WoW is flight paths. Flight paths are effectively very slowly teleporting you from one place to another.
Sure, but I actually like that. But go ahead.
And I understand that I don't think we're going to agree on this particular point, because I think that if you're just going to force me to teleport, but also take my time away to the point where I either just fiddle with my inventory or alt tab until I get there, just let me teleport. Just let me get to the let me just go from point A to point B. Let me keep playing.
I think though that yeah, I don't know. I have a reason why I feel like it's still a little bit different. But what that is harder for me to explain. It's that like it doesn't feel to me like oh he was right there. Shit.
Fuck.
It doesn't feel like to me that that it is just an arbitrary teleport, right? Because you could run that distance, and in some cases that is the better option, right? And you could teleport with a mage back to the capital cities or wherever, right? I think that I get what you're getting at, because you're saying quintessentially, and it is basically like the teleports in Final Fantasy, but there's a little bit more cost to it, whether it's the cost of just the travel or the cost of time. You have to decide, do I really want to go all the way over there? Right? Like it makes, like, personally, people say, oh, did you really like waiting for everyone to gather at a dungeon? Yeah, kinda. I like the idea of running into people. I like the idea of meeting up with people in a capital city, searching for group in a capital city, and then putting the time in to go to the location, and then all together, and then do the dungeon. There's a time investment there that I like. I will say though that, and I don't think this is untrue. I don't think I'm having a different experience just because it's later in life. My first time in WoW, groups were a lot more they weren't as toxic, and they didn't treat their group as casually as trying to do groups in classic WoW was like playing with your average internet scrub, whereas I think MMOs were a little bit more niche back in the day, that people seemed to invest in them a little bit more. I had significantly less scrub players back in the day than I do now, if that makes sense. Oh man, that guy got fucking boned. And yes, Goldie, before we keep talking, I do want to say I did get to play Firefall, and I actually really, really liked it, and it was very upsetting when it failed. Sorry, go ahead, Rope. Okay. But there's also a lot of chat, so.
Well, I still want to respond to the thing that Owl said.
That's fair.
But before I do that, on the topic of fast travel, for me, I very rarely think that games get the balance right. Like, I understand the not being very pleased with the notion that once you've been to a place once, you can just teleport there whenever you feel like it. However, unless a game has really spectacular movement, which is very uncommon, and it's usually like a Spider-Man game.
Like Death Stranding?
Yeah, like Death Stranding. Fuck you. Once I've traveled to a place a couple of times, I really don't want to have to keep doing it over and over and over again. Like, I'm not going to think that this game is better or more fun if I've walked to Cummy Town. Hold on. I have to put money in the swear jar.
You did it. You said it. Without us receiving dollars.
Shut up and take my money.
I'm walking there 10 times as opposed to 5. Maybe I will enjoy the game more walking there 5 times as opposed to 1. But games that introduce fast travel very late in the game, usually to me, it always feels way later than I wanted it. However, on the topic of what Owl said a million years ago, he said the difference between an interesting world and an annoying waste of space is how much cool shit is littered between. I think that that's only half true, and I might be a little less forgiving for this than some other people are, who thought that Breath of the Wild was a 10 out of 10.
I love Breath of the Wild.
But this is something that I've mentioned before. I was usually, when I explored in Breath of the Wild, I was very disappointed after I did the exploring, because if I saw a really cool landmark or monument, and then when I went to climb up on it, either there was nothing there or it was a sword. And I don't think it's a very controversial opinion that swords are not a great reward in Breath of the Wild. And that made it a lot less, I appreciated those landmarks less because it was just a landmark. A cool piece of architecture or a cool natural formation in a game is great, but give me something that I actually care about for going over there and walking on it or walking under it or whatever the hell.
You want to be rewarded for doing so.
Yeah, which in Breath of the Wild's case, that would basically just mean give me a piece of armor.
I mean, I definitely, we've talked about it, Breath of the Wild ad nauseum. I like it way more than you do. I agree with your criticisms of it. It's just you'd give it a 4 and I'd give it an 8. So
well, I might give it a 5.5 to a weak 6. But I didn't bring it up to shit on it. I just, that specific aspect, I feel like there aren't many games that I think encapsulate my feelings towards exploration more than that game.
Owl kind of countered you there, though, and I actually agree with him. Then it wasn't cool shit. His point being, if it did have those things, then it would be good.
I guess, but it's if the land, a lot of the time, there was something that was cool to look at, visually, it was exciting to see on the horizon, and it made me want to walk over there. And
his point is he's not defending Breath of the Wild. He's saying that you're correct. And he's saying that the problem there is that it wasn't cool shit because there wasn't cool shit there, and there should have been. And were there cool shit, then it would be good. And I agree with him.
I liked Breath of the Wild a lot more if I was sufficiently rewarded for exploring the map the way I did.
It might just maybe I'm just splitting hairs, but what I mean at least is a lot of the landmarks were very cool, and in that sense, the landmarks were cool shit. It was just I was very disappointed by the fact that I had nothing to show for it upon approaching them.
I get it, but I think you are splitting hairs on the word cool shit when what he's really trying to do here is just tell you that you haven't actually addressed. So your response was about an example of that's cool looking, but it's not actually cool shit gameplay wise. And his point was, well, that's not what I mean. I mean, you are rewarded for going there. Replace the word cool shit with reward. I think his point is very, very valid.
Yeah, Owl's saying when he says cool shit, he means the entire experience from start to finish was cool. By having the reward not be cool, that is not encompassed in his original state.
It's like exploring in Stalker, right? There's not really a lot of cool shit in the gray shithole of Pripyat, but in the area around it. But every time you go, I just go and I explore some fucking tunnel because it's there. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get eaten by a monster. And at the end of it is a stash with some cool items and a gun. And I'm like, yeah, I just happened to see a hole and decide to get in my hole. It was made for me. And there was something good on the other end.
You were rewarded for exploring.
Right. And that makes that sprawling map fun.
Yeah.
I guess I agree with it more if I reframe the cool shit from being something like a monument to a Yakuza sub-story, which is cool shit that is littered between point A and point B.
Now, we did have quite a bit of paragraphs here that we didn't respond to, so I'm going to go back. Another thing I find annoying that all my friends do is when they all play a new game, they devote all their energy into becoming sweats and OP ASAP. And and that legit takes the fun out of it. Whenever I play a new Minecraft world, they usually make an automated iron farm in just 2 days. Oh man, God, I have so many opinions on this. I hate sweaty gameplay. It really just is an absolute experience killer for me. Like, yeah, I don't really know what else to say on that topic. Like, I hate that. Like, I really hate when any potential fun of experiencing the game is taken out by, you know, this idea that we've got to make it just like as sweaty as physically possible, and take it super seriously. I have friends who do that. Like, we all play a game together, and then it's like, all right guys, you know, I want to go explore this thing, and then like 2 days later they've like completed all the quests and all the stories, and you know, I'm like, well, that was great, I guess.
Can I respond to the next one? 'Cause
Absolutely,
Titan
yeah.
says, when you have limitations in how fast you can move, you stop feeling like a ghost in the world. Otherwise, it's like, okay, I have access to the whole world. There's no real order in which I need things to get done. The thing is that's not what Final Fantasy does. You have to get to that location on foot first.
Well,
yeah.
but if you ever need to go back for any reason, now it's just trivial and it doesn't feel significant to go there.
And I think that's why they introduced Aether Currents.
Oh man, I hate Aether Currents.
But it forces you to explore, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't make me explore in any way that's entertaining. And half of the time you can't. If you decided you want to just go get the Aether Currents, you're completely gated behind, like, you know, the stupid main story, which I also don't enjoy. Like, I understand what you're getting at, but what Aether Currents feel like to me is just this like hurdle that I inevitably just don't do. Like, what happens is because you're gated behind the main story, the ability to fly becomes so insignificant that I've there's so many zones I've just never gotten the Aether Currents in. Just never done it. And like, it's because I feel no motivation to do so. It's just annoying. It's this annoying tedium where I don't feel rewarded for what I'm doing, right? Like, they took something away and introduced a boring mechanic to find them, and I'm not like having fun exploring this world because there's nothing else I'm doing. Whereas like in World of Warcraft, you know, back in the day, I don't feel this way in the modern era. I felt really good exploring because there was a reward to that exploration, beyond just like just getting a flight path or something. And also for me, I want to be clear, I actually don't think MMOs are the prime example of where I say I like to explore. I think I like the breadth or size of something in an MMO because I like to feel that where I am in the world matters. I like to feel like choosing to make my home or make my primary base of operations in this city has an advantage because of what it's near. Whereas, you know, one of the things is like in WoW, I always kept my Hearthstone in the crossroads because it had a flight path to everywhere. Everything had to pass through the crossroads to get to anywhere on Kalimdor. So I like to just make my Hearthstone there, except for when I really needed it to be somewhere else for like guild reasons or something, right?
Yeah. So I actually do generally agree with you on the Aether Currents thing, and the reason I do is because I think it's bullshit that they're locked behind quests. I think that Aether Currents would be fine if, when you first got to a new zone, if you decided that what you wanted to do was just explore the map and get all the Aether Currents and unlock flying immediately, it would be a better system, and I would 100% enjoy it and be okay with it. The best MMO that does exploration, I find, is actually Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, I agree with this.
Guild Wars 2 has not only point of interests, filling out maps, but it also has platforming challenges while exploring, and you always get, you know, free skill points or, you know, a really cool vista and skill points. You always get something for doing the platforming challenges on top of also exploring the world, because sometimes the start of the platforming challenge will be halfway across the zone.
Right. No, I agree. I agree with you on all of this. I love Guild Wars exploration.
Yep.
Yep.
I liked a lot of things about Guild Wars too.
Guild Wars is base map.
No, I agree with you completely on that. I think that what I just miss, that's just something I miss in general. And I don't actually think that, as much as I understand, I even think that in World of Warcraft, a lot of what I enjoy about traveling and stuff is gone from the game. Like, it has been so, for lack of a better term, casualized that it's just not a thrill to travel anymore. Because a lot of what made the world big is gone. The world isn't big, because usually in every expansion you're just playing on a small little like island, you know? You're not playing on the 2 continents anymore. You're just exploring on a small little island that's for that expansion. Ooh,
Kyvie, I have opinions on Fallout.
Actually, what do you mean by that, Kyvie, when you say that's why Fallout games work well, but they overdo it and make it a hoarder sim? When you say they overdo it and make it a hoarder sim, are you referring specifically to like Fallout 76? Or is that like the games in general that you mean?
Yeah, because I think Fallout, when it comes to its exploration, has a different problem. It's standardized exploration. Every quote-unquote dungeon is generally formatted in a tunnel system, and there is almost always a reward, at least some sort of reward at the bottom, and a shortcut out. And that kind of takes away some of the mystery of exploration when you know that this rock that says secret hatch or something, and it begins the entrance to a dungeon, you know there's going to be a bunch of free shit in there, because there always is.
I think actually New Vegas, there were a couple dungeons that I remembered. They had a sort of an interesting aspect to the loot, in that it wasn't just sitting inside like a locked chest at the end of a series of hallways or anything. Like, there was a really, like, very early on in the game, there's like a super modded varmint rifle you can get in New Vegas called the Rat Slayer. It's just like decked out as shit. It's just like a silent sniper rifle, effectively, and it is sitting at the end of a dungeon in one sense, but it was also like, it wasn't in a box or anything. It was like hidden underneath somebody's desk, and it was like it has a dark palette, and it was a dark room, so it was pretty difficult to see unless you were like really looking for it. I also remember one of the DLCs, you had to like follow the trail of this guy called the Survivalist, as he's just like bullshitting around in the past, and at the end of his trail he's just like sitting on a vista, and there's like a knapsack next to his corpse after he like brained himself that had a bunch of really cool shit in it, and that was neat. I don't know if it's really related to anything.
I was about to say, what's your point here?
I guess like that was like, those were rewards in Fallout that weren't quite like, you know, Skyrim flavored, which is really what I guess most of this is.
Well, I think I have a better example. So I'm pretty sure it was the Robco building in Fallout New Vegas, where there's actually a special experimental item that is in there somewhere, and you wouldn't even know it existed unless you hacked a computer and read computer logs, and you more or less followed a trail of breadcrumbs from locked computer to locked computer to eventually find the final location of this item. And that is significantly more interesting than running through a cave while killing enemies and there being a chest at the end and a shortcut out.
Yeah, Bottle specifically called it the standard Bethesda side quest dungeon. And yeah, I think Skyrim was particularly shameless about it in that there was literally a gigantic treasure chest sitting at the end of every cave system. And then right behind it was like a grate, and you could pull a lever to open the grate and then walk out. And then in Fallout 4, like, they like tongue-in-cheek referenced it, where like sometimes if you just kill random super mutants, they'll have a note on them that says "kill, loot, return," which is just how you play a Bethesda game.
Mm-hmm.
Kill, loot, return.
Wait.
Hmm? Tarkov?
Oh, my brain stopped functioning for a second. I thought I was missing out on something a little more nuanced.
No.
Owl says, yeah, that's what I mean. I modded Skyrim with a ton of unique rewards. It made the exploring much more enjoyable because even random cave number 54 might have a unique thing. I do think that's definitely interesting. However, I don't think we should be left at the mercy of modders to fix someone's game for them.
Oh, absolutely. I was about to say that myself.
Yeah. It's kind of just a testament to like how shit Bethesda is that other people have to make their games good for them.
You know what? I think that's and I've talked about this before. So like Kyvie, you know, I mean, ignoring like what's wrong with ignoring what's wrong with these games. He did say they do it and make it a hoarder sim. I think that's what I like in a lot of games. I kind of like being a hoarder. I like collecting cool stuff, cool loot, which is what I described like is the thing I like about Tarkov, for example. You know, it's and one of the things I don't like about the game is how other people play it like a battle royale, right? Because I want to play it like an exploration survival hoarder thing, right? And that's not to say that my answer is right or wrong. It's just to say that I bring that up because that's also how I play you know, a lot of these other games. That's how I play you know, like Bethesda games and that's how I play just a variety of stuff. I think I really like oh no.
Hold on, Kevin. Are you saying that you would like Tarkov more if it was a looter shooter?
No, I wouldn't like it better if it was a looter shooter. And I want to keep, you know, I what I'm saying is that what I gain a lot of pleasure from in a lot of these games is the looting. And I think that is a criticism I would levy against Breath of the Wild, is that looting was pointless because weapons broke every 2 minutes, right? So there's no point in collecting anything. Wouldn't it be cool if you know, some enemies just had unique items that you could add to your inventory and keep? It'd be pretty cool. Pretty cool, Breath of the Wild.
Kyvie got a really good butt spot proc.
Did he? Let me see. I mean, I did enjoy Skyrim's quest lines for the Daedra. Well, I mean, I did enjoy Butt Rim's quest lines for the Daedra. Kai would like Butt Rim. Yeah, so of course he would.
When it comes to hoarding in games, I think it's something that I would conceptually like, but my problem is that it never gets to the point where it's like, because you're always hoarding to craft bullshit, right? That's what hoarding is about. And that would be fine if it were like, you know, it's time to craft something, and then I look at the requirements and I realize all my hoarding has paid off and I already have enough stuff to like craft it. But that's never what happens. It's always, I've been hoarding for 20 hours and I finally decide to craft something, and that thing requires like 10 fuckboy hearts that you can only get from the rarest enemy in the game with a 10% drop rate, and I have one of them that I received from a quest, and it's the only guaranteed one you can get. And it's like, it just creates more work.
Yeah, I get that. I agree. I hate that, like, big time, and it is something that's just not a lot of fun. Remember to be as kind to yourselves as you would be to others. Tell those you love them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you for whatever we do on Wednesday.
Don't forget to moisturize.
Don't forget to moisturize.